Welcome to another episode of Postscript. I'm your host today, Bob McLeod, and we are going to be chatting with Cam River Fighting Walleye assistant coach, Dylan Butler. Good afternoon, Dylan.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're going to chat today a little bit about yourself and your coaching and just the Fighting Walleye and hockey in general.
Nice.
So let's start off with what is your background? I would assume you have played a good amount of hockey?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Thunder Bay. I played minor hockey growing up in Thunder Bay, and then a few years with the Thunder Bay Kings. And then after I turned 18, graduated high school, I went out to Manitoba for 3 years. I had the chance to play for the Portage Terriers and the Dauphin Kings in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. After that, after my 20-year-old year, I came back and had the opportunity to play for the Lakehead Thunderbolts here in town for 5 years. So that was a great experience. And then I guess looking back now, it's been 3 years since I finished with Lakehead.
Interesting. It appears that you've done some work into continue on a hockey career. I know most youngsters think that once they're done midget hockey, that hockey's almost done. But it's good to hear stories that you've moved on. You've had a junior career and you went on to play Lakehead, which is a foundational team here in the city.
Yeah, it was great. It was kind of always my goal once I left town to come back here and play for Lakehead. I mean, like you said it perfectly, it's a foundation here in town. And growing up, you always went to the games, and it was a blast watching them. And as a kid, you kind of looked up to them as heroes. And I kind of think it transitioned, and it's still like that now. It's even more fun giving back because on those teams, you get the chance to see the kids, and that's how you looked up to the kids or the players that were there 15 years ago when you were 10 years old. And then so it was important. It was a big important part for me, at least, to make sure we were always there if kids wanted to if we were doing school visits or anything like that, to make sure we were out and about.
Okay, so once you were done your hockey career, did you step right into coaching?
Yeah, I guess right away. I was approached to coach the Bantam AA Norwest Stars. Right after I was done with Lakehead, we coached. I just some friends and people I played with growing up, so I had the chance to coach with them, Bantam AA, and then as that was finishing up, that was actually when COVID first hit, so we were in the middle of our playoffs. I think it was March, and I remember, never forget it, we were at Delaney, and everything shut down. So we thought it was going to be a week hiatus, 2-week hiatus, and we might have missed that tournament weekend. And I think we're 2 years into it now, maybe more.
Yes.
So it's funny looking back because we were like, oh, maybe the Westfort tournament's not going to finish, but playoffs will be fine. Blah blah blah. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. And we didn't see them ever again. Like those kids are now 16.
No doubt.
Kids were 13,
for
14.
sure.
Now they're 16.
Yes, and including myself, I remember when COVID first started that thinking, okay, this is going to be a 3-week shutdown. Mm-hmm. Well, here we are in maybe week 103.
Honestly.
And it's still going, but it's stuff we got to do. Being kind of a hockey buff myself, you mentioned that you were coaching the Norwest AA Bantams.
Yeah.
I believe they had an iconic head coach there for a number of years.
Yeah, I think Billy Duncan was the
Billy Duncan is the
coach
name,
there,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe he just passed away recently.
I think he passed away in that, maybe it was right before COVID hit or something. It was right in the last couple of years. And actually, the team I'm coaching now, the Cam River Fighting Walleye, I think it was our first game of the year this year, our first home game. We did a little pre-game ceremony for Billy. So there's an actual piece of the boards with the Norwest Star, and it's got the BD in there for Billy. We had his family out pre-game and just did something for him, just because I didn't grow up out in Oliver Papoonge or Stanley area, but the people that did were all there, and it was heartfelt. It was touching for even someone that he never coached me, but you could tell he did coach our head coach and a lot of other guys in the room, and you could tell the effect that he had on everyone that he coached or even gotten any sort of contact with.
Oh, for sure. Like I knew of him. I had a friend back home whose son played 2 years Bounty, and he played with Norwest, and he played a number of years of AA hockey, and he still talks about Billy Duncan.
Yeah.
So anyway, you touched on another hot topic in hockey these days is COVID, right? COVID's affected everything from schooling to travel to sports in general. You know what? This is going to be a good lead into, we have a documentary that was done last year on your team, the Cam River Fighting Walleye, and it's called Black Ice. And I think that this would be a good time to look at that right now, and we can all kind of reflect a little bit.
Perfect. Let's take a look.
In a way, I figured it was coming, but it's just still pretty weird to know that hockey just got canceled.
With rising cases in the Ontario region, sports and other large activities are shut down till further notice.
We were actually on the road when I was playing in Ottawa, and we drove about 2 hours and a half to go play our game, and we were warming up, and our coach came up and said, "Yeah, we're not going on the ice."
I was playing here in Thunder Bay, Fort William Canadians, midget AA, and yeah, we were just about to head into the finals of the city championships, and then everything got shut down.
Currently, we're sitting roughly in the middle of November. We'd probably be about 25 games into our regular season. We typically play 56 to 60 regular season games. Player movement across the country is a lot different. Guys are coming available. With major junior pushing their kids down into junior A, it's making other players that typically we wouldn't get in the SIJHL available.
Well, they postponed everything where I was, so to come back here and to be welcomed by Valley and those guys, everybody on the team with open arms was great, and to be back on the ice again, skating, it's always great.
In saying that, all the teams across the country are carrying 25 players right now. Typically it's 21, so we're finding a real shortage with some depth guys, some defensemen, stuff like that, where teams, say in the Manitoba League, there's 12 teams and they're all carrying 4 extra players, so there's a lot of players that typically we would have an opportunity to get that they're just not here. So we've done a really good job. Our scouting staff, we have a scouting staff of about 16 all across North America. Not being able to have American players, we had one get across the border. He's a student at Lakehead University, and he wasn't taking no for an answer.
It was hard for sure. I remember talking to several teams, and they would invite me to their camps and stuff like that, and I couldn't attend many of them because of COVID. They kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back until they just ended up not having one. So I reached out to this team, and they wanted me, right away. So I'm really happy for that. It was a different off season for sure for a lot of guys, and I'm just grateful to be here.
The locker room atmosphere, I'd say, actually took the biggest hit, because some of the best part about going to practice or to games is you're in the locker room with the guys, you're shooting the shit and enjoying each other's company, because really that's what everyone came here to do, is play hockey and be with the guys. So when you only get 15 minutes and they rush you out, or you got to wear a mask, it kind of takes away from the whole atmosphere, I think. Well, while we're in the locker room, because it's kind of like our little bubble, we don't have to wear the masks all the time, but as soon as we step out, we put the masks on, we try to distance ourselves. There's little stickers on the bench and stuff like that to keep everyone spread out. So that's basically it. Oh, and our own water bottles as well.
You're not allowed to be at the rink as much, which is, anybody who knows hockey or has been a part of, I want to say like upper level hockey, so you get into whether it's AAA or junior A or pro hockey, college hockey, being at the rink is your home. They're all just so excited, and we have a young team, so this is also new to most of them, right? But I'd say when we first got out on the ice, everyone was jacked up.
I was really excited just getting on the ice. I was pumped up for practice when it started. I've been having a blast so far.
I think, being the new kids on the block, you want to make an impression right away, bring in the best players as possible. Come out of the gate strong, wanted to keep morale up in the dressing room.
When we found out we could play, especially that they said the regular season was going to start, the mood or the morale definitely went up, I'd say, for sure.
As far as on-ice practices, I mean, you have your bubble, right, of players. I know for sure at first there was restrictions on how many players you could have on the ice and bubbles and stuff, but for us, we get our restrictions set on us, but as far as the on-ice stuff goes, we have the things we got to work on, which is normal stuff, right? So as best we can stay safe and adhere to the rules and regulations of the no contact stuff, we still are working on the things we think we need to work on. It was really nice to get these games in, and it's made practices better, and it makes our job better as a coach because you're actually trying to work on something, whether it's something you've seen you didn't do well in the video, from the games, or maybe it's just something that you're trying to implement, new system in a game. But no, it's pretty interesting to see just that competitive reason, right? It's incentive, right? It'd be like you're going to school without getting a degree. It's like, well, what the heck's the point, right? So. Yeah, having that end game, having that end goal, or seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, whatever you want to call it, I think all of us can relate to that, right? It's that extrinsic motivation. It's like you're working towards something. It's some visible or attainable, reachable goal that you're trying to build towards. So, that kind of makes sense, I suppose.
We got people from now Stanley or Oliver Papoonge, people from Thunder Bay, obviously, to come watch us, and you're bringing communities together, and that's what hockey does. It's been doing that forever, same with all sports. It gets people together, and people of all, from everywhere, and they all love the game, and that's one thing everyone has in common.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about the fans and the community. We're nothing without them. They make everything happen, so whatever we can do to give back. I know we've gone out and helped out a little bit, the Salvation Army and stuff like that. We've done some stuff, so we're really grateful for all the fans and all the community that have helped bring this team into existence. So yeah, we just want to give back whatever we can to them.
We've been lucky. We've had great families step up. We have some that have 2 players and some that want 3. Without the billet families, we don't survive.
I think when you're playing hockey and you're winning and you're having a good time, then the connections, they just kind of go on their own. But if you can't really force connections, and if you're not in the locker room a whole lot together, I don't think it really matters as long as what you do when you're on the ice together. That's what really does it.
It's so easy as a coach to overreact. Game 1 or week 1, or wow, we're not doing this very well. The forecheck stinks. And throw it out the window. But you got to stick to that process, and I think the more you wear each other down as people and get to know each other as people, get to the core of that person. That's something I put at the forefront of what I'm doing here. What we're doing here is building relationships, building community, being part of the community, and developing that person and player first and foremost. And in the end, I think that's where you're going to see the success, whether it's on or off the ice.
Now we got back to the fucking goal!
Okay, that was great. That was a really good documentary, and I like those behind the scenes there. You see more and more of that on Netflix and stuff, like pro hockey teams, and that was a similar thing, and it just kind of gives you a better feel. And one thing, that the big topic is COVID. One thing that everyone could only guess. I know myself, as hockey was coming back, I thought it was going to be real hard for hockey to make a comeback. But me just being a referee and just kind of a fan, I noticed that in Thunder Bay and in my hometown of Nipigon that the hockey players came back right away.
Yeah, I think there wasn't much keeping people out of the rink, especially the kids, the players. And it's with stuff like that, like with junior hockey, or growing up, you only get so many years, right? Before, like, minor hockey ends at 17, junior hockey ends at 20, and then if you have the chance to play later on, and it obviously all dwindles down, right? So I think your heart goes out to the kids that missed their 17-year-old year of minor hockey or their 20-year-old year of junior. Like we had the kids that were playing on our team that, like, we got a couple games in last year, but once they went home for Christmas, cases ramped back up and we were shut down again. So that was their 20-year-old year gone, and now they're all, I guess, not that it is in a way to say, like, that was the end of their hockey career, and now they're joining the real world, which isn't very fun, right? So.
Yeah, no, for sure. One thing you touched on is the kids going back home and travel. I know this year, there, like I said, I thought it wouldn't be as enthusiastic, but there seems to be a great enthusiasm. How has it been for you and basically your whole Superior Junior League to accommodate the travel with the American team, seeing as we're not fully back to normal yet? Has that been a...
We haven't. So I think the first weekend that one of the Canadian teams traveled to the States was last weekend. I'm not sure exactly the protocols or the precautions, what was taking place, but they were able to go and play. Prior to that, the American teams could come here and play. So basically, the two American teams were playing every game as an away game, and that just doesn't work with regards to them running a team, right? Because the costs are astronomical for them. They have no home revenue or anything like that, and then they're on a bus and hotels for every weekend, right?
So now, are they in the rest of the year? Are they going to have the majority of home games?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be
balance out at the end.
Exactly.
So you know what? Kudos to the league executives and league scheduler just to accommodate that, right?
Yeah, and it's so funny. I say this to our head coach all the time. Just like, it was his first year as head coach of a junior A program when we started last year, and then the stuff he's dealt with, most coaches that have done it for 35 years haven't dealt with. Whether it's there's a vaccine mandate now, like no one's dealt with that stuff before, and it's his second year, a year and a half in, and he's got to make sure that every kid's vaccinated. And then, I thought you said this, and then there's such a gray area with what's allowed and what's not allowed, and then getting all our kids vaxxed. We had kids miss a couple weeks because you have to get your second vaccination, as well as it's 2 weeks to be immunized, I guess, with the vaccination. So we had kids that were just sitting around because they hadn't received their second vax. And it's just, there's so many little things, whether it's the getting into a rink with your self-assessment, all the kids have to be that. Mm-hmm. And it's funny to think about that he's been thrown into this, and I laugh all the time because what he's dealt with, and he's done a great job dealing with it. We run a top tier organization, and the ownership staff, GM and him and Matt's been great through all of it.
One thing you mentioned there was that you guys run a top tier system, and being a hockey fan, I really noticed that.
Yeah.
You see most teams just have their team and that's it, and I see that you guys have a junior A team, your main team, you're fighting Walleye, and you also have your Thunder Bay Bandits junior B team, and that's probably an ideal way to run a whole system. Can you speak on that?
I don't know enough about the Bandits team to speak on it, but it's definitely easy enough, and it's a lot of teams. There's very few teams that do it like that, where we can just, if we had some kids get pushed out a bit from new guys at the start of this year, then they can just, if they choose to, can simply just go to play for the Bandits. And then obviously, we haven't had any sort of COVID scare, but between COVID, injuries, sickness, anything like that, just to have kids that are playing at a similar level to what we are and aren't just sitting on the couch and we got to bring them in, that are in the same city as us. It's simple. And we actually had some kids the start of the year when some games got canceled or a game got canceled. We had some inter-squad games between us and the Bandits that just, it's easy. It's a lot easier for just logistic-wise to be able to have the Kings there and to have the Bandits for whatever call-ups we need.
Oh, for sure. That's and I would assume to run a system like that, it probably takes a fairly large team.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know of one player that went to your tryouts, and he commented on how organized it was, how many coaches were around.
Yeah, and that travels with throughout, and that's one of the biggest things with junior A hockey in Canada. A lot of it's all junior A hockey, but the bringing kids in and recruiting comes from a program, and that travels across Canada. This guy's going to know this guy, and this guy's going to know this guy. So if you're trying to bring a kid in, you want the people before them and the parents, whoever it might be, to have a top tier experience, because if they don't, then their younger brother's going to tell their friend who we're trying to recruit, right? So by having, our ownership staff is at almost every game. They're very prevalent with us. The staff's incredible, the quantity of people and just the quality of people too. And then we have a full coaching staff, and then there's scouts and whoever else that we bring in for training camp and stuff like that.
You mentioned the word scouts, and that was touched upon in the documentary. Was scouting? How far do you guys look? Do you guys just look regionally? Like I know you're going beyond Thunder Bay, because I know you have players from the Geraldton region, and I haven't looked at your roster exactly, but what's your range where you guys are putting diligent work into looking at players?
North America.
North America,
yeah,
wow.
We have scouts all over the States as well as all across Canada. Plus, I think we have a scout in some of the northern communities as well that kind of travels throughout there, because there's some great hockey players in those northern communities too that sometimes don't get the exposure that are very talented as well. And then like Alex Edegren, who's assistant captain of our team. I can't remember what the city's called, but he's from Idaho.
Okay.
So that's what he spoke about it on, just how bad he wanted to play hockey, and basically he was doing anything to play. So there was no one playing within his region, so he reached out to our GM and coach and said, "Hey, can I come play?" And he's one of our top players without a doubt.
Wow.
So it worked out perfectly for us that we got a kid from Idaho here in a COVID year, and it's even better now that he's staying kind of when the regulations are a little relaxed.
Yeah. So and now we're almost to the point where things are getting easy. It almost feels easy. You know, we adapted to this COVID world, and now things are getting a little easier, which is a good thing. Hopefully, we can continue on. I want to touch base on you guys are a little bit of a unique situation, and it's even in the title of your team, Cam River. Everyone thinks you're Thunder Bay, but you guys are actually based out in Stanley, and that's your home rink. And how would you find, being a Thunder Bay resident, a Thunder Bay hockey player, basically, do you find any difference? Do you feel a small town air when you're out there?
Without a doubt. It's even whether it's sponsorship, game days, the kids in the community, they're always like, our mascot's name's Chomper, and you see the kids, like if we're running other things, if we're just at the rink, where's Chomper? Where's Chomper? It's different where the Thunder, like in Thunder Bay, there's a lot more going on, whether it's the Thunderwolves, North Stars, obviously, and there's just a lot more going on where out in Oliver Papoon, Stanley, in the Cam River area, it has that small town feel where on a Friday night you go to the Cam River game, and then I had the same chance of when I was playing in Dauphin and Portage. It was maybe a bit bigger communities than Stanley is, but it was still in that 10,000 range where you were the ticket in town, and it was the kids looked up to you, and that's why we preached our players that they are. So like it only benefits everyone. It benefits the people watching, and it benefits them by having more people come and having people watch and going to the schools and that kind of stuff. It's reciprocated both ways, and it's been a blast.
Oh, for sure. Like, say, for myself, living in the small town of Nipigon, it's almost a religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have games every Wednesday night. We have our local Bantam team and midget teams playing in the Thunder Bay League, and almost every Wednesday there is a game. So it's almost a religion where every Wednesday night you go out. Myself, I'm either reffing or I'm sitting in the stands with my buddies.
Yeah.
And
it's a blast.
It is a great deal. Now, how important do you feel hockey is just in the community in general? Some people just call it a sport, but myself, I think it's more than a sport.
Yeah, I think it's, in a sense of community, it's huge just to, in a way of just bringing kids up. Like, again, from my personal experience, like I've made tons of friends and lifelong relationships it's going to transfer into a sense of community when you're growing up, and it allows you to, whether it's jobs, careers, your kids, anything like that. I think growing up in, whether it's hockey, soccer, it doesn't specifically have to be to that, but just being in a sporting setting where you're spending that kind of time and you're building those bonds.
In that team environment.
In that team environment, it prepares you for so much else in life that I don't think you get in school or anywhere else. And now they touched on it in the video when COVID was last year's COVID season. We were there 15. I think we were allowed maybe a bit more than 15 minutes in the room, and then after the game we're out. Whereas now, like, hockey's fun, but the most fun part about hockey or being on a hockey team is almost when we're not on the ice. It's in the room before the games. It's in the room after the games. It's just being with those guys nonstop, and that's what I think COVID took the biggest thing away, because we were allowed to skate last year, but it still wasn't the same thing as being on a junior team and getting to spend. Some of our guys sit in the room for hours after practice. Just why not?
For sure. I could only imagine some of the stuff that happens there. Lots of fun.
Yeah,
for sure. And you touched on base about getting a good team ethic. I know a friend back home that runs a very successful business, and he's commented that when he has people inquire, and especially in this tough job market nowadays, it's almost hard to find workers. He says he looks for hockey players.
Yeah,
and he says and he feels that they've grown up in a team environment. They know that you have to work together. And he said he could have individuals come to see him that have never played a team sport, and he kind of penalizes them in a scoring system.
Yeah, and it's exactly what I'm saying. It's so much of an advantage just to be a part of that, and just the things you learn humility too. And it's just where there's some kids that, and it happens with junior hockey, like if you were the guy when you were 16, 17 coming from wherever, you might have to take a different role when you're 18 playing with the 20 and 19-year-olds, right? Where there's that humility where you're not going to last if you can't handle that. And that comes into a job. If you're used to being whatever and you're privileged for whatever, and then you start a job and you're at the bottom of that totem pole, and you got to swallow a bit of your pride.
You have to understand that.
You have to understand that. It's just there's so many little things that you learn throughout sports that translates to the rest of life, I think.
Okay, no, that is great. This is great hockey talk. I could go on for hours talking about hockey. You know what? I'm just curious about the whole Superior Junior League in general. How is it going? Is it bouncing back from our COVID pandemic?
I couldn't touch on too much of it with revenue wise, and again, I've only been in the league for a couple of years now, so but it can't be, it has to be doing well, because our games are packed. We played the North Stars on Wednesday night. They had a lot of people at the game. Fort Francis, we've been there's been lots of people. Again, it's something to do, and there's still COVID restrictions on so many things that I think the leagues and the things that are open are benefiting even more, whereas no one's traveling right now, or maybe some people are starting now, or no one's doing this or that, whereas why not go to a hockey game, right? So I think the league in general, it has to be doing pretty well.
No, for sure. Everyone was wondering, where are we heading?
Yeah.
And, and there's talk about this great reset, but you know what? This is part of a reset. People are looking at it. People are getting back down to the roots, I believe anyway, and getting out to local hockey games. People are talking about shopping local. It's just a different way of thinking.
Yeah, and I think it also added a level of, it made us adapt to something. I know some of the Thunder Bay rinks are now streaming the live feed that you can watch through your T-Bay Tel or whatever. So if you have grandparents or whatever, they might not want to go to the game, or maybe at this point they're not allowed in the rink for capacity restrictions. They've actually set up cameras inside the rink where they could watch the game, or you can watch kids practice, and it's just a live feed. So it's just little things like that pre-COVID would have never happened. And now post-COVID, whether we're completely past it or not, if they leave things like that in, I think it'll just add such a big level to it.
No, for sure. It has forced us to evolve.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, well, anyway, I think that's going to about do it for our show today. I'd like to thank Dylan. This has been very interesting.
Yeah, this was fun.
Great.